Hello, all you wonderful people out there in the dark. Thank you again so much for checking in. It's that time again. As the month of May comes to a close, I thought we should spend a couple minutes and talk about some of the important things and maybe not so important things that have happened in May over the years. Anyway, so May, 5th month of the year. And May comes from the Greek name Maya, who was a Greek goddess of fertility. The birthstone in May is the emerald. The flower is the lily. I believe the zodiac, there should be 2 signs. What is it? Taurus and Gemini. So May the 1st. May the 1st, 1960, a U.S. spy plane is shot down over central Russia, the Soviet Union at that time. So the spy plane, I think it's a U-2 spy plane, shot down over central Russia, and this cat named Francis Gary Powers, a CIA agent, the pilot, he's captured. Of course, they put him on trial. And the Soviets sentenced him to 10 years in prison, hard labor. I don't know the exact details, but basically through some sort of, trading of spies, we get Mr. Power back. He returns to America, but much to his chagrin, he doesn't get a hero's welcome. A lot of people at that time, quite frankly, are pissed that he allowed himself to be captured alive. So I guess he ends up in exile, but sadly, this man actually died in a helicopter crash in 1977. What else? May the 2nd, 2011, we successfully kill Osama bin Laden. That was May the 2nd, 10 years ago this year. May the 4th. Now, May the 4th is a interesting day for me. We'll do the easy, fun May the 4th. The nerd in me. May the 4th be with you. All you Star Wars geeks know what I'm talking about. It's basically Star Wars Day, a celebration of all things Star Wars, and a play on the words May the Force be with you. We say May the 4th be with you. It was first recorded, I believe, in 1979, but I think even as early as 1977, people were saying, May the 4th be with you. Now, as my good friend and colleague often calls me, the hipster lib portion of my brain, May the 4th, 1970, in Ohio, Kent State, 4 students were murdered and 11 were wounded by the U.S. military. Allison Krauss, Sandra Schuler, Jeffrey Miller, and William Schroeder were all shot and killed on May the 4th, 1970 at Kent State. May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Very famous and popular party day in today's world, but for Mexico, that's the celebration of the Battle of Puebla in 1862. And the Mexican army, outnumbered, I think 3 or 4 to 1, was able to beat back and defeat Napoleon III. So a big day for Mexico, Cinco de Mayo. 1893, Wall Street crashes. Shocker. Even in 1893, we've had some economic struggles having to do with Wall Street. By the end of the day, 600 banks close, and we end up with about 20% unemployment, and countless tens of thousands of other businesses close over the next several months and years. 1961, May the 5th, astronaut Alan Shepard is the first American in space. He actually achieves, I think it's 116 or 118 miles straight up from the surface of the planet in his capsule called Freedom 7. May the 5th, 1961. May the 6th, 1527, the Renaissance ends with the sack of Rome. German troops invade Rome. Shocker, Germans. 4,000 Romans are killed. The Pope is imprisoned. And I know you'll find this shocking. The Germans steal countless treasures of art, money, and books and literature. May the 7th, 1915, the Lusitania is sunk by, you guessed it, the Germans again. I think it's 1,198 or 1,200 of the 1,900 passengers perish, several of whom are Americans, which helps expedite the United States entering World War I. That was 1915, May the 7th. May the 7th, 1945, a Nazi, I believe he was a general, Alfred, I think it's Joel, something German. Well, he signed surrender papers, unconditional surrender, effectively ending World War II in Europe. Though some more papers are signed a few days later, 10 days later. Russia's not too pleased that the Nazis surrendered to Eisenhower. So we have some other ceremonies where some other cats officially surrender. But basically, May the 7th, 1945, World War II effectively ends in the European theater. 1954, French-Indonesia War ends. Basically, the Vietnamese are able to beat back the French colonists, effectively creating, I guess, the 17th parallel, creating North Vietnam and South Vietnam. And shortly thereafter, of course, America decides to take its chance and see how they fare in Vietnam. And it'd be 20 years before we tuck tail and leave. Anyway, 1954, May the 7th, the French surrender to South Vietnam, or created South Vietnam. So May the 10th, 1869, the Union and Central Pacific Railroads are joined or linked with a golden spike in Utah. Pretty cool. Changing the face of this continent and our country, quite frankly, forever. May the 11th, 1969, Vietnam, the Battle of Hamburger Hill begins. It lasts for 10 days, and it's basically hand-to-hand combat. I don't know offhand how many men lost their lives, but at the end of the 10 days, Americans take the hill, and then once we've taken the hill, hours later, we're told to leave the hill, effectively making all of those lives lost irrelevant. And I think that sort of symbolizes the war as a whole, Hamburger Hill. May the 11th, 1969. May the 12th, 1937, George the VI is crowned King of England after his big brother, Eddie the VIII, abdicates the throne to marry some gal. Now, George rules until, I think, 1952, when he passes away. Then his daughter, Elizabeth, takes over, and she rules to this day, or whatever they do there. I don't honestly know. May the 13th, 1846, the United States, sorry, that's not COVID, that's a weed cough. The USA declared war on Mexico, and in 2 years, the war ends We're victorious, and we get territories that become Oklahoma, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, California, and Colorado. May the 14th, 1607, Jamestown is founded, the first English settlement in the Americas, leading to obviously the future of the United States. May the 14th, 1804, 1804, the Lewis and Clark expedition begins. Takes them a year to reach the Pacific Ocean through the Oregon Trail. I think they get there at about 1805, give or take. 1796, May the 14th, this cat named Ed Jenner, he creates the smallpox vaccine. He actually coins the term vaccination. Amazing. 1796. May the 15th, 1972, presidential candidate George Wallace is shot. The outcome of that is he ends up being paralyzed from the waist down, and of course his candidacy for president ends. That was the 15th of May, 1972. A lot going on in the late 60s and 70s. May the 17th, 1792, the New York Stock Exchange, 1792 now, is officially established. I think it's 12 or 15 merchants. New York Stock Exchange is established. They meet under a tree on a street called Wall Street. May the 17th, 1954, the famous case Brown versus Board of Education is argued. Thurgood Marshall, one of the lawyers that argues the case, he obviously goes on to become the first African-American or Black Supreme Court justice in this country. And Brown versus Board of Education was basically trying to end segregation in schools for equal opportunity for Black children. And once again, the South wept. May the 18th, 1983, Mount St. Helens erupts. Ash is seen as high as 11 miles in the air. It's the first time it's erupted in hundreds of years. May the 20th, 325 AD. This is the Council of Nicaea. Now, there's a lot of controversy around the Council of Nicaea, but essentially in 325 AD, Constantine and members of the church essentially established Christ's divinity, essentially making him the Son of God. And some have argued that they also parse out and make certain books of the Bible, create the Bible as we know it, or make the Bible canon. I don't actually believe that's true, because the struggle with some of that. Oh, they also fixed the date for Easter. I talked about it before, some of the problems with the changes in the calendar, Easter and the movement of the moon. It used to be very complicated for people and to get cats into the church. So in 325, they picked a date. That was Easter. They also picked the Christ's birth date as the 25th of December to tie in with the pagan holidays. But a lot of folks have argued, and I don't think there's a lot of truth, that this is when they pick the various books of the Bible. Because as you all know, depending on which sort of religion, there's different numbers of books, even within the Bible, and there weren't books in 325. The printing press wasn't invented until 1440, I think. So most of the, we'll say, stories of the Bible were written between 1200 BC and like 100 AD. And though there was probably certainly some assembly, and I think Voltaire made some reference to this once and said that they set all the books on the table and the ones that fell off were deemed illegitimate and that kind of nonsense. I really think that the Bible as we know it today wasn't assembled, or has been assembled in various stages all the way up until the printing press of 1440. And the Bible that we know it today is in existence because of the Gutenberg Bible, et cetera, et cetera. But 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea, Constantine, the first Christian ruler of Rome. Again, Jesus Christ's divinity is established. The date of Easter, Christ's birth, etc., etc. Also May the 20th, 1927, Charles Lindbergh. He flies from New York to Paris in the spirit of St. Louis. He does that in 33 hours. World record. Gets, by today's standards, not a lot of money, but the money, I think it was like 25 grand. But more importantly, he becomes famous beyond his wildest dreams, I suppose. May the 21st, 1881, Clara Barton establishes the Red Cross, or the Red Cross is founded. May the 22nd, 1972, Nixon visits Moscow, first president in history ever to do so, and I think 4 days later or 6 days later, he and Brezhnev, I believe it was Brezhnev, actually agreed to sort of freeze nuclear the continued building of nuclear bombs. It's sort of the first time. And that's 1972, May the 22nd. May the 24th, 1844, this cat named Samuel Morse, well, he invents Morse code. And the first message he sends is, "What has God wrought?" What hath God wrought? Kind of interesting. May the 27th, 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge opens in Sacramento, and 200,000 people walk across that bridge. 200,000. That's a lot of cats, man. And they've been painting it every year since then. It takes them a whole year from one side to another. Once you're done, you get some new paint, you go back the other direction. May the 28th, 1961, Amnesty International is founded. May the 29th, 1453, Constantinople is captured by the Turks, and they change the name to Istanbul, which effectively ends the rule of the Byzantine Empire. And the Ottoman Empire takes over, and I believe they rule basically peacefully for about 800 years. Until basically World War I, when that cat was assassinated. Now, our last day, May the 31st, is obviously Memorial Day, and it's a day that we spend, I think hopefully all of us spend a moment reflecting on the men and women who have sacrificed their lives to preserve freedom, not only in this country, but in other countries around the world. And I do believe the best way to express and celebrate that is to have barbecues. It's also the unofficial start of summer, but is to have barbecues and mild celebrations, because what better way to honor those folks who died than to do the very things that they fought so hard for us to do. But Memorial Day was not always Memorial Day, and it was not always on the 31st. It was actually celebrated on the 30th from 1868 to 1970. Bet you didn't know that. And it wasn't always called Memorial Day. It was called Decoration Day. And the history of it's very cloudy. Decoration Day was essentially a day that it sounds like mostly women would go to the grave sites of soldiers and place flowers and wreaths. And it would be a day of quiet reflection. And there's no clear cut. Everybody claims to be the first to sort of do this. I think Decoration Day was sort of officially established in a weird way about 1862. It was, the name was officially changed in 1969. It took effect in 1970, as I mentioned. And then 68, Congress basically passed some laws making it basically an official federal holiday. It's also when the Indianapolis 500 is held. So there you have it. There's May, a pretty good month, and I only scratched the surface of some of the exciting things that happened in the 31 days of May. There were many important birthdays. Other fascinating things have happened, but I don't want to bore you to death, and I've got other things to do. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got a kick out of some important things that have happened in May. That's very good wine, by the way. Anyway, in this world, as always, when you could be anything you want to be, you be kind, you be humble, you be forgiving, and you be melting snow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.